Hello, everybody. It is great to see you all today. And I have a follow-up session here. We're going to do a Let's Talk with Giovanni Corrado, TV analyst, TPUSA ambassador, Bienvenido ambassador, among other things. He did a great live session with us yesterday for I believe somewhere between 60 and 100 people were able to, throughout the session of the live, they were able to join us. Unfortunately, as I was posting, my Instagram crashed, and so I wasn't able to post it to IGTV permanently. So Giovanni and I are going to kind of summarize a little bit of our talk here today. Giovanni, good to see you again, my friend.
You too.
How are you doing?
Doing great. Ready for this. Ready to jump right into it, man. Again, incredible job with your campaign. We had a chance to connect again yesterday.
Yes.
As you know, privately. So really great job in your campaign. Looking forward to discussing a little bit about me, a little bit about you, and a little bit about how other people can build platforms and networks around politics.
Yeah, guys, that's what we want to outline for you today. A little bit about my background, about Giovanni's background. We've really got an international influencer relationship here. Quick summary is he is influencing Italy and the United States. I'm here running for Congress in the United States. Giovanni, why don't you talk to them a little bit about your background, about what you're doing, and then we'll switch to me, and then we'll share some pointers and some advice, some lessons that we've learned about building our platforms with you guys, because we both are passionate about empowering young people and encouraging young people to get active and get involved with their social and political leadership.
Sure. So my story, basic rundown, grew up in Italy, a little small town in northern Italy on the hills, boots on the ground till I was about 17. Then realized that 500-person small town was kind of suffocating my ambitions and what I wanted to do in life. So was fortunate enough to get a scholarship, moved to the United States by myself. One thing led to another. I ended up getting another scholarship for college, so I stayed here in the United States. Was pre-med for about a day, like other peers, and then switched back out to government and law, which I really found are my passions. Interned for a congressional campaign, then interned with Marco Rubio, Senator Marco Rubio in Florida. Lucky enough to then intern at the White House press office under Sean Spicer and Sarah Sanders, summer of 2017.
That's amazing. I didn't know these names, actually. Last time we talked, I didn't know it was specifically Marco Rubio and Sanders. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was incredible. There are two great bosses to have. It was definitely great light work for what then happened afterwards. At the White House, I was lucky to start a fellowship with the United Nations Foundation on global health policy, which lasted for about 8 months. Upon finishing that, I was invited to be a youth ambassador for the United Nations Foundation for viral diseases, malaria, polio, and the eradication of these diseases through advocacy in Congress in favor of global vaccinations. After that, I was finishing up my degree, ended up taking a summer analyst position at Bloomberg on Wall Street. I then joined Bloomberg right out of college when I graduated December of 2018. So then I did that for about a year. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really my passion. So now I'm back in legal consulting. I do a lot of TV work, writing a book in Italy about, how to energize the Italian youth to change the country again. So a lot going on, and it sounds like the same for you, right? What's going on with you?
Yes, yeah. And so quick few points here. Some things that stuck out from this discussion and our last one. One is you're writing a book. That's amazing. You're yet to title it, which is fine. We'll be in touch about it. It's about ultimately how to save your country, namely from some of the negative effects of widespread socialism. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, it's a totally fair summary. And the reason for that, I went into detail about it yesterday. The basic overview, very briefly, is that many European countries, although not socialist per se, have a socialist legacy that happened after World War II, when people were really rejecting the associated right-wing policy completely with, of course, Nazism and fascism, unfortunately, because of World War II. So they ended up electing across Europe a lot of socialist leaders that implemented socialist policies that then reproduced throughout the years. And that's why today we have, super high taxes. Italy has the third highest tax brackets in the world, right behind Japan and France. And this is really killing the country's growth. We were the fifth superpower in the world after World War II, and now we've tanked But that's need to bring it back. We need to bring meritocracy back to the Italian youth. Bring back the willingness to go above and beyond and really change the country from inside.
So I love the approach with a meritocracy. And for anyone not familiar with the term, it's the idea of advancement based on merit or based on achievement. So rather than you being advanced based on your gender or your race or anything that you don't choose, you're advanced based on how hard you work, how well you produce, how reliable you are as a person. That's merit. That's what we choose. And that's why I think both Giovanni and I would agree that's how we should be judged. And then last question, I guess, from my side here is also you shared an interesting story about your summary of being involved with the news yesterday and how very few young people are involved as voices in the news. And yet the media loves to speak about young people, but their perspective is always skewed because it's always 55, 60-year-old analysts pretending that they understand our culture, which is 20 and 30-year-olds.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. A little less so in the United States. We're lucky enough to have certain news networks that really do leave space for young voices and young. But that's definitely the case in Italy. As I was telling you yesterday, we did a study with my team on how many people under 25, under 30 actually, were present on TV in the three major news channels in Italy within a given week, right? So within a week, three main news channels, how many 30 and under year olds were speaking about youth issues on TV? And the answer was 2, just me and one other person. And that's an issue because young people then don't see examples of interactive and meaningful discourse coming from their peers.
Yes.
They don't see that, they get demoralized, they're not energized, they don't want to get involved in politics. And that is what ends up, feeding into the whole poor youth involvement in politics. And that needs to change. And this is the way we want to change it.
Awesome, man. I mean, those are excellent points, inspirational for people, again, in an international way, which is like, I just love having this expanding circle of inspiration, and it's for young people and young minorities. I come from a mixed ethnic background. You're an immigrant. You've been in the US, in Italy, and now we're just not in young people, not just minorities, but young minorities from an international perspective. That's amazing. So then I guess you had some questions about the campaign. Hit me with them.
Yeah, I really want to know. So listen, you're running for Congress at 27 in a D+13 district. We talked about this yesterday. What this means is that this is a heavily Democratic district historically, but you touched upon some reasons why your district is winnable and why your campaign can succeed this upcoming November. Can you recap those for us really briefly?
Yeah, sure. So number one is a trend towards desiring Washington outsiders nationwide. We see this on the left with the widespread acceptance and amazing influence of AOC. And I say amazing influence, not because I like her influence, but because it's amazingly impactful. You can hate her all you want, but she's a household name. She's changing the country. So I saw that desire for a Washington outsider, and I said, where are those people on the left, the young Washington, or on the right rather, on the young Washington outsiders? We see this on the right with someone like Donald Trump, who his first political office was president of the most powerful country that the world has ever known. So there are just two examples of Washington outsiders being wanted and needed today. So that's number one. Number two is that my opponent is absolutely a Washington insider. He's a career elitist, 40 years in politics, 26 years as an incumbent. I think that makes him extremely vulnerable. In the 90s, that would have made him extremely stable because that was the old way of politics. Now people are saying, we reject those elitists. We don't want those people. We want our neighbors. We want our fellow citizens to represent us, not those elitists who have been in power for decades on end in their elitist bubble. So that's reason number two. Reason number three is that this region has been trending red for the last decade and a half or so. It used to be a D+30. Can
you tell everyone else what district you're running for?
Yeah, so PA18, which is Pittsburgh. If you need to find it on the map, easiest way, look for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then it's Pittsburgh and the surrounding region. It's been trending to the conservative side, increasingly so, and the people who live here who make up that D+13, they exist on a spectrum. They're not like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They're more of what I would call light blue Democrats. Some people would say blue dog Democrats, working class. union people, and really in functionality, they're like what Republicans used to be, and then Democrats are what socialists used to be. So these are people who I talk to Democrats frequently when I go out in public who support Trump, for instance. I mean, this is not your Los Angeles Democrat. This is a very different beast because we categorize people in our two-party system as either D or R. And that really doesn't give for very accurate readings on where the population truly stands.
Sure. Yes. And that is very true. And it's something that people often fail to understand when it comes to campaigning. The spectrum where people stand is incredibly important. And actually, the largest voting block is no voting block, because very often in these not high profile congressional cases, you know, you get a voter turnout. If it's a special election or if not a presidential year, often you get voter turnout about 25%, 30% of voters. You're working on very slim majorities that you're trying to win. And that's your case. But now let's move to my last question about your campaign. How are you building your team? How are you fundraising? How are you getting boots on the ground beyond, you know, social media to win this thing?
Yeah, so building the team, it all starts out with a network. About 18 months ago or so, I started planning this out, contacting people who I knew were passionate about politics from my studies professionally in academia, from other internships I had done, from other campuses and colleges who had college Republican chapters, reaching out to those people and recruiting them onto the team, starting that grassroots movement with other young influencers, much like yourself, shooting direct messages, grabbing a call, shooting off an email, that type of stuff, leveraging the network so that I'm not the only one carrying the team, so that we're all doing our expertise. That's step number one. Then, yeah, we're heavy on social media, especially in COVID, because a lot of people are online now. People are scared to go outside and meet individuals. However, as we discussed yesterday, door knocking, getting mailers, getting handouts out there is still important. And that comes back to being organized and encouraging your volunteers to work alongside you. I think too many times we see candidates ask people to work, but not ask people to work with them. I think that with them part is really important. So rather than me saying, will you go out and knock on doors for me? I say, will you come out and knock on doors with me? I'll be out there. Let's go do it together, and let's get this done. So that kind of enables and inspires people to come out and join you.
And we talked about one thing while we transitioned to our last topic, which is how can other people build their networks, build their platforms to put their voice out there and really go a step further with their activism in whatever industry they're at. But what we talked about yesterday is the fact that there's what you're passionate about, and then there's what pays the bills. And I'm a big this. I do not like career politicians. I do not like people who often I like them, but I understand them. But I make a point of it that I don't like the idea of saying, hey, I want to do politics. Politics is my passion, and that's what I'm going to do as a job. No. So politics is a passion, and then there's your career, and you need to develop the two things concurrently. And if you get to a point where where what pays the bills is also your main passion, then you made it, in my opinion. So how are you doing that, and how can other people work towards getting to a place where those two things meet?
Yeah, so the first thing, just like people say about addiction or about suffering from trauma, the first step is always identifying the problem. So the problem is that we need to identify what is your work and what is your passion. The way that I shared yesterday that I do this is I ask myself, if money was not an issue in my life, would I still do what I'm doing for work? And if the answer is yes, if someone gave me $5 million and I would still say, I want to do this for work because I want to, not because I have to, then it's a passion. If the answer is no, if someone gave me $5 million and I said, all right, I'm done with this job because I don't need it anymore for money, then it's work. Then it's just paying the bills. So you need to identify it. Find a way in your mind to identify what you're aiming for and know, okay, this is a job. That doesn't make it bad, but it's a job. Or this is a passion. This is what my life's calling and my skill set are for, I believe. So those are two different things. Identify them, and then work hard for the passions. Try to make that passion your job, like you're doing, like I'm doing. Put yourself out there. Take risks. Stand for what you believe. And if you're going to go after your passion, go after it 100%. Because if you're going after your passion with 50% of your energy, then the chances of that passion materializing are considerably smaller. And to the outside eye, to the person looking at you, it doesn't really look like your passion. If they're like, it's his hobby, but he doesn't seem to truly be dedicated to it, whether it's music or politics, it has to be presented as your passion and not as something that you just do to pass the time or that you're lazy on, that you're, I guess the American term, right, would be like sleeping on it. Don't sleep on it. Work for it.
Totally true. And we get, I'm sure you get this a lot, but I really get a lot of messages from people who ask me, young individuals, let's talk about youth, young individuals who will either ask me, tell me, I love what you're doing. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet in my life. You seem like you got to figure it out. I don't, by the way. I just work till something happens.
Yes.
So they either ask me, how did you figure it out? Or they ask me, how can I build a platform? How can I get people to listen to me? How can I, have a stance online or wherever on my issues, because I'm afraid of repercussions. I'm afraid from repercussions from my friends who are liberal. I'm afraid of repercussions from my employer. How do I build something where I'm able to express my opinions, not freely, and at the same time, find my true calling into what I want to do? So what's your view on that? How did you find it? How are you interacting with different networks, political and not, to put your opinions out there?
Yeah, so one is building bridges and being willing to talk to and work with anybody. So even if it's someone who disagrees with you, sometimes I think those are the best networks and the best relationships to sharpen yourself with, because then you get to know the other side and you get to show that you're actually a unifier. And we need that today in Italy and the United States more than ever. We need people to be unified with the basics that they agree on and then move from there into their disagreement, but with that first understanding of, hey, we both respect each other and we do agree on some things. So that's one of the big things. Beyond that, I would say you have to build your network, leverage your network, which you and I talked about. Reach out to people, set a goal for yourself. So if it's, let's say in a week, in 7 days, reach out to 100 influencers. Find influencers like Giovanni, like me, shoot them a direct message, comment on their page, send 5 comments to each of their recent posts and say, I want to network. I want to do an IGTV session. I want to do a TikTok together, whatever it is, and try to get into that network, be persistent. And then lastly, I'd say that fear that comes, that nervousness, that feeling that you might be rejected by people in your life. Here's the truth. You probably will be. There will be people who will come at you. There will be people who get angry at you. You have to choose to push past it. I think it's Theodore Roosevelt, one of my great American heroes, who said, the brave don't live forever, but the cowardly don't live at all. So being brave doesn't mean that you're not scared. I get scared. I get worried. I get nervous. You push past that feeling in the pit of your stomach when you're about to go on national news, when you're about to interact with someone who wants to make you look like a fool or wants to make you look like a sexist or a racist. It's unfair, but you have to push past it. And you have to be willing to put yourself out there and to take the hits, because they're going to come. I wish I could tell you, hey, don't be scared. They're not going to come. They are going to come. But what you have to decide is that you believe what you believe, and you're going to share that regardless.
Totally. Yeah. And to sum it all up, I think some practical steps that people can take are really 3. The first thing is build consistent content, meaning put it out there. Start with simple stories. Commenting on issues or articles that you've read or you've seen online. Then start with postings. Commentating on certain issues that you've been seeing and that you have a strong opinion on. Don't focus on too many. Maybe choose 1 or 2 if you care about abortion, if you care about term limits, if you care about fiscal reform. Stick to those and really start building your presence there. That's number 1. Number 2 is exactly what you were saying. Network. What you've seen, I hate the word influencer. What we really are, we're individuals who put their opinion out there and happy to have a few thousand individuals who like to listen to it. That's all we are. And a bit, we will answer. We will do this. We will, find the time to put our opinions out there with you. And that's number 2. And the third thing, absolutely be consistent. It doesn't happen overnight. And very often, we all started with one person viewing our stuff, and then still today we have stuff that is viewed by maybe just a few hundred individuals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're consistent, and I've seen it over and over again. The people who are consistent and they build and build and they go from a few hundred and then they hit it. They have that incredible, brilliant piece of content that millions of people see.
Yes.
And they're in the movement. They're a name within the movement that you want to break into. So that is my 2 cents in terms of practical advice. But hey, man, thank you so much. You ran an incredible campaign. As I said yesterday, I believe in you. I really appreciate your thoughts and getting on this live with me again. And let's hope it doesn't bleed.
Right at you and back at you, Giovanni. Thanks for being here. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another Let's Talk session. Check out Giovanni's page. I will be posting this, as he said. Hopefully it doesn't shut down this time. It's going to go live, or rather it's going to be posted permanently on my IGTV channel in about 3 minutes here. Giovanni, thanks for being with us, man. Be safe.
Of course. Thank you. See you next time.
We'll be seeing you. See you.